Hello and welcome to QPR Preview Show episode 30 of the season, ahead of the long trip north to face Sunderland. You joined us with QPR outside the bottom three, but only just after a very flat 2-0 defeat against Middlesbrough. You only have to look back on the comments on last week's show, and there was so much optimism in the air. In our prediction league on our forum, there was only one person who predicted a QPR defeat against Middlesbrough. So what went wrong, Dave?
Oh, it was so QPR when it after it was so good those previous two games. But I thought we started okay. I thought we were probably the better side first half. It's unfortunate we come up against Senny Dieng, who was in really good form. I thought was probably the difference between the two sides. We just couldn't get that first goal, could we? And the longer it went on, you could just see a bit of tiredness creeping in there. The crowd was a bit flat. The team were a bit flat. And, once they went ahead, you just couldn't really see us coming back. It was just a really frustrating afternoon. And as it worked out, I suppose if you'd have lost at Leicester and beaten Middlesbrough, you have the same points and everyone's on a high. But after how good they were on Wednesday, it was a real letdown on the Saturday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's such a funny old game, as the saying goes, isn't it? That just the same amount of points, 4 points, but because of the way it's fallen, everyone this week does feel a little bit flat around the club. And you're right, we saw the highs and lows of supporting QPR all wrapped up in 7 days, didn't we? And there was lots of disappointment around the game, but you're right, it could have gone either way. And it just felt to me like the first goal was huge, and we were probably the better side in the first half, weren't we? Just paid the price for not getting ahead. When you look at the XG of the teams, we were only 0.07 behind Middlesbrough, so it was a close game. But overall, I think we have to agree we underperformed, didn't take our chances, faded in the game as everyone tired, paid the price. And now we praised Marty Cifuentes a lot in the show. We praised him last week, especially because he deserved it. We can still offer some criticism maybe when it's warranted. And we clearly had the three pre-planned subs, didn't we? Chairfield and Frey going off on 54 minutes. Did you think that was the right thing to do?
It's a difficult one. In hindsight, it's easy to sit here now and say, no, it wasn't the right thing to do because I don't think it was looking back. But at the time, Chair wasn't doing a great deal. You could see why he wanted to freshen it up. The big difference between this game and the previous ones was the subs didn't have an impact. You saw like what Armstrong and done on the previous against Leicester the week before, and how the subs impacted the game on the Wednesday. They just didn't do it. They didn't really have an impact. Smith had one half chance. The midfield didn't seem to work once Field went off. I'm sure he'll look back at that Cifuentes and say, I wish I'd have done different changes. I've done it slightly differently, but it's hard at the time. I can't say that when I was sat there at the time, I was thinking, what is he doing? I thought, I get why he's changing it, but it obviously didn't work.
Yeah, I just felt like Borough changed it. At the start of the second half, they clearly pressed us a lot higher. There's an image here where it shows Jack Colback and Kenneth Powell. They're passing it back and forth to one another on the edge of our own box. Borough have pressed us. We can't get out. And Colback actually ends up clearing it into the stands. And I just felt we maybe needed some tactical changes at that point rather than just pre-planned ones. And obviously the game slipped away. But you're right, hindsight, whether he'd do the same thing again is unlikely. But overall, 4 points from those three games, we'd probably all have taken it, like you said. The key thing is we're still above that dotted line and it's still in our own hands as we head to Sunderland. And it has to be said that football fans in general, a bit guilty sometimes of overreacting one way or the other. If we beat Sunderland, we're going to be far from safe. But if we lose, it's not over, obviously. There's still a long way to go. And we highlighted it last week. Those 4 fixtures in a row up against the teams around us after the international break are what's probably going to give us a better idea of where we're heading. And Brian did a podcast for us earlier this week, going into great detail about the remaining fixtures of all the teams involved. It's well worth a watch back if you've not seen it. And now Brian thought we'd need 55 points to survive. His guest Joe thought it would be around 51. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think around 51, 52. I think if we win 4 of those last 9 games, we'd be unlucky to go down with that. I think we might potentially need more. When you look at the remaining fixtures, a lot of the teams are playing each other, so they can't all win. Teams are going to drop points, teams are going to gain points. So it's a really difficult one to call. For me, we need to get those 4 wins as quickly as possible. It's an obvious thing to say, but get the points on the board as quick as you can, because you go into those last few games, you look at Preston at home, we don't have a great record against them. Leeds, we've got and Coventry last game. You don't want to be going in there needing 2 wins or 3 wins from them, because you're not going to get them, in all honesty. So we need them points on the board as quickly as possible. But I think if they can get 4 more wins, I think we'll be okay. We'll just about stay up.
Yeah, it still seems like a big ask, doesn't it, when we've only won
Mm.
so many games in the whole season? 3 games ago, I had looked, the amount of points needed for the team in 22nd was 35, and it's only gone up over the last 3 games by 3 points to 38. If it carried on at that rate with 9 games left, it'd be 47 points, enough to survive. So I think it might be a little bit lower, maybe just below 50, and that's just because of what you've highlighted. Is there's so many head-to-head matches, you only need a few draws in them, and it will bring the amount of points needed down. It's obviously going to be very interesting to see how it pans out. QPR start this section of the running against Sunderland. We'll preview that one now. In the head-to-head, it's only 1 win for QPR in the last 7 matches between the sides. We've not beaten them in the last 4 games, which means our last win over Sunderland was over 6 years ago now. It was actually the match when Aberieze scored his first goal for QPR. But they've lost 6 in a row. And I bet it's the first time in 18 years that Sunderland have lost 6 in a row. And incredibly, before that streak of defeats, they'd won, when they last won on the 10th of February, they were 6th and 2 points clear of 7th place. Now they're 11 points outside the top 6, 9 points above the drop zone. And as much as Michael Beale was obviously seen to not doing a great job there, it's not done them any favours sacking him, has it? What has gone wrong at Sunderland?
It hasn't. They've been fully Mick Beale, haven't they? I mean, this is what happened to us when he left us last year, wasn't it? We hardly won a game again. Puts a curse on the place, I think. It's strange how they're falling away. When we played them at home, start of the season, I thought they looked a fantastic team and thought they'd be shooing for the playoffs, but they've really fell away. They've been a bit unlucky with injuries. Pritchard left, didn't he, in January, and Clark's been out injured. So, they've had a few struggles, but it's been a surprise how quickly they've fallen away. And, they probably just can't wait for the season to end at this point.
Yeah, I still don't. We don't obviously know the finer details of why Tony Mowbray left, but that seemed an odd one at the time. They were in a good position. Again, it might just be another case of another club being careful what they wish for, and now it's like a proper implosion now, isn't it, with that type of run? You're right, Jack Clark, but out and out their best player every time I ever see them. He's out injured, but they aren't a one-man team. They've always looked like a well-drilled, talented young squad every time I ever see them. So it's strange the way they have drifted off the way they have. Perhaps worth pointing out, though, that their last 3 defeats were against Southampton, Leicester, and Norwich. So all very good teams that they've played. If we beat them, do you consider them part of the relegation scrap, or are there too many teams below them?
I think there's too many teams below them. I think they'll be okay. They probably need 1 more win, realistically, and I think they'll get that before the end of the season. Like I say, they have been, in the last few games, they're a bit unlucky against Southampton at the weekend and against Leicester the week before as well. So I think that the 6 in a row probably looks worse than what it actually is compared to how they're playing. So, never an easy place to go to up there, is it? But we've got to go up there and play with that same intensity and intelligence that they used at Bristol City and Leicester, and go and get the points up there, because they're not in great form. They're without their best players, and you've got to take these opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, though, we've not got Senny Dieng to save us, have we, this season at the end? I think they've got enough points in the bank already, potentially, to survive. They probably only even need a few draws and they'd be safe. But I'm sure they'll have a big overhaul in the summer to try and work out what went wrong up there. As for QPR, we certainly need more than a few wins and draws, as we've discussed. The good news is all the tired legs should be gone. So the excuses for the Middlesbrough defeat were valid, but have gone away this week. We've had a week off. Up front, it was Michael Frey who got the nod again last week. Lyndon Dykes came on, and I saw a good joke on our forum that someone thought he was wearing an invisible kit because he was totally anonymous. Sunderland's a big pitch, maybe favours Sinclair Armstrong. Which way do you think he's going to go up front this week?
Yeah, I think he might start Dykes in this one, like he did at Leicester. I think, and he did it at Bristol City game. I think he started as well. I think he might go with that. I thought Frey did okay last week, but obviously run out of steam quite quickly, and I think it'll be like Armstrong off the bench in the second half, similar to Leicester, that sort of thing, to try and, I think the plan will be to get ahead in the first half and then play on the break with a bit of pace. But like we said before, any of them really, I think, can do a job for us at the minute. Dykes was a bit worrying, I thought, at the weekend. He was completely anonymous when he come on. We didn't create anything, so it's not all down to him. But, he could still be there now and he wouldn't have scored, would he? It weren't the greatest performance.
Yeah, as much as that joke about Dykes is correct, I actually think it could be Dykes as well, because he's likely to follow the same blueprint as the Leicester and Bristol City away games. We won those, so you suspect it'd be Dykes, with Armstrong coming on potentially around the hour mark. Off the field this week, we had the new contract for Sam Field. Are you happy with that? And do you see him starting in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's great that he's staying on. I mean, he's been a really good player for us the last few years. So I think it's good news that he's staying. I would have thought you'll start. I think he'll probably go back to Field and Hayden in midfield. Maybe Cole back on the bench this week. I thought they did really well against West Brom and at Leicester as well. So I'll probably go with those two in midfield. But Colback's a funny one. He played for Sunderland before. Obviously, hopefully he won't get himself sent off like he did earlier in the season. But it'd be a big game for him because he's not very well liked up there.
No, he'd probably be keen to play, but that's actually a good point to raise, because he was a bit too fired up, wasn't he, in that fixture last time? You could tell he nearly got sent off before he got sent off. So interesting to see whether he picks him. I personally would go with Field and Hayden, because that was what worked at Leicester. So I'd like to see him do that again. And as for Sam Field, I feel Cifuentes can improve him so much still. So it's great that he's got the new deal. If he can encourage him to move forward, add that half turn to his game, which we've spoken about in the past. But again, why no contract length has been revealed is just so odd, isn't it? I mean, any football club in the world who wants to know how long Sam Field's contract is, they're going to find out. When are the club going to realise that that is a nonsense?
It's bizarre. I don't see what they've got to gain from it. I don't know. I just don't understand it. Whether we know he's there for 2 or 3 years. If he's just signed a contract. If someone comes in and bids 5 million for him in the summer, he's going, isn't he? No matter how long his contract is. So I don't know what we've got to gain from it. The only people that are in the dark is the supporters, and yeah, it's a weird way of doing it. Maybe they'll change it going forward, but it seems to be the way they want to do things. I mean, there was the rumor that Armstrong had signed a contract, but they haven't revealed it yet. So who knows if that's true or not.
No, they seem to maybe hold the news back for when they need a good news day or something like that. But yeah, hopefully they realise that it is total bizarre thing to do straight away. Back to the game, do you expect the same trio of Willock, Anderson and Chair to start?
I think so, yeah. It's probably our strongest three in that position. So I think I'll go with them again. I thought Anderson was good again last week, especially in the first half, but then unfortunately faded a bit in the second, like everyone else. So I think he'll go with them. Chair's been good away from home recently as well. He's got a couple of goals on the road, so I think he'll start with them. And then you've always got Smith to come on with his pace on the break in the second half. So I'd assume he'll go with that again.
Yeah, I think it'll be those three. Hopefully, I mean, they've all should be fresh, like we're saying. And Smith and Armstrong off the bench, to me, is our best combination of subs to bring on to really try and scare a team, push them back when we maybe need them to. Let's see what they do. Predictions for Sunderland then. It's a long trip. Will we be coming back with 3 points?
I think we're more than capable of going there and getting a win. But I think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a tight game. You think Sunderland is surely going to end that run at some point, and Charity Park Rangers are in town. So I think it'll probably be a draw.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare for a team to lose 7 in a row. So whether we'll see that or not, it's one of those matches where you feel if we can get the first goal, their fans are going to be up in arms straight away. A bit like when it was Stoke the other week and we didn't manage to get the first goal. They'll be keen to not lose more than anything. Like you say, could be a nervy atmosphere. I think it'll be maybe a 1-1 draw. But with Huddersfield facing Rotherham, you wonder whether that would actually be enough to keep us outside of the drop zone this week. It'd be nice to head into the international break outside the bottom 3, because otherwise it's going to be a long 2 weeks ahead. And it'll certainly add pressure onto what's already big matches to come after the break. The big matches start with Birmingham and Swansea over Easter weekend. We'll be back to preview them in a fortnight. Join us again for that. Thanks for watching, and come on, you R's.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.